Good morning, everyone. We're here for the Sunday mindset session. Luke Moroney here, Tony Meredith up there. And it's all about our mindsets on a Sunday morning. How are you thinking? What are you feeling, Tony?
Well, I'm feeling awesome. Luke. I'm back. It was a great episode last week with Sean and Kelly. I really enjoyed that. Missed talking to you and the audience on a Sunday morning. So I'm back. I've had a big week, a busy week, and it continues. So here I am in beautiful Brisbane. Gorgeous today. A couple of clouds in the sky, not too many. Absolutely sensational.
Same in Sydney. The weather is absolutely gorgeous. Had a great weekend already and a super week of mindset property for me. And I know, Tony, the reason why we come up with some of these topics is on the back of some of the coaching sessions that you have. So we got to wrap it all up into one idea or one thought that you have across the week. And, some of the experiences that I have in my life as well with clients and with family, with friends. And there's where you come up. Now, I did my run this morning. On the back of the run, I saw a sign that said reduce speed. And I thought about, bringing some ideas around that. Mm-hmm. And it's the same ways that we're coming up with topics here about, speed up, slow down at different times you want to work with that. Sean and Kelly do say hi. Tony Gallagher's come on this morning, said good morning to Luke and Tony as well. What do you think?
What do I think about reduced speed? Well, sometimes it's a case of go slow to go fast. So people try and do 101 things and they do it at a frenetic pace and they have no real clarity around it or no real organization structure, no real productivity. They're just busy doing heaps and heaps of stuff. And quite often it's a case of just taking a deep breath, slowing down, getting yourself all lined up, getting everything in the direction that you want, and then accelerating your speed. So that's how I interpret reduce your speed. As I said, I use a saying, which is go slow to go fast.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got Janine coming on as well. Tony, tell us about the week that was in terms of clients, in terms of what's, why we're coming up with this particular topic today. And the topic for today is, are you getting the basics right?
Well, because that's what it happens, right? So we've come off, if you think about the timing in the year, and this happens pretty much every year, we've set our New Year's resolutions. We're going to do all these wonderful things throughout the course of the year. We get to now, the middle of January, and we start to go vroom. And the reason we start to nosedive is because we haven't got the basics right. So one of the biggest excuses that people give me, and I give myself on occasion, is I have no time, right? And so it's about challenging ourselves that we do have time, right? And so getting the basics right is first and foremost, if you have a goal, an objective, a task that you want to achieve, you have to create the time to be able to accomplish it. Whether you're in a job and you want to do something different, whether you're in a business, you want to do something, health and wellness, love and relationships, whatever it might be, you've got to create the time. So the basics are, how do you find the time? We all have 168 hours in any given week. We all got the same, all of us. And so it's about then leveraging that time, challenging ourselves. Important to get the sleep right. A lot of people go, I'll just sleep less. Well, no, I don't necessarily subscribe to that theory at all. In fact, you want to be able to get great sleep because there's a whole lot of studies starting to come out that sleep or poor sleep, lack of sleep, then has flow-on effects to cardiovascular disease and a whole lot of other nasty stuff. So it's important to get,
as well.
Well, that's the area that we need to work on, right? So what I'm saying is preserve the sleep. Sleep's important. Don't use the reduction of sleep as the reason to find more time. Be more productive with the time that you're awake. That's the opportunity. So if you're sleeping for 8 hours a day, then what have you got? You've got 16 left. And in the 16, how are you spending your days? What are you doing with that time? How productive are you versus busy? Go back to the saying that I just said earlier when Luke talked about reducing speed. Go slow to go fast. Spend some time getting planned. Plan out what you want to do. Just take a few minutes to plan out what you want to do, your plan of attack for the day. Now you've got some structure and just work your way through the list as opposed to going flat out and having no real direction about it.
We've got Amol come on. Leroy, my mother, has also joined. Morning, Mum. And Leroy says, morning. Sean has said, I'm actually giving Kelly a driving lesson and she took speed up and slow down in the wrong way. We're on schedule here. Good on you. Ray's come on. Sean Hayes, Craig Martin, and Sean says, morning, sports fans. So a couple of analogies come to mind when we talk about the basics, Tony. And if I think about in terms of property or people building, you got to get those foundations right. You got to get the plans, the strategies, the structure in place to actually build a really good house. Same way comes for, you use the analogy a lot about setting up a GPS into somewhere, a direction that you're heading in. If you don't plug it in at first, you could have issues when you're driving, trying to plug in an address and things like that. And obviously it's illegal to do. So these, you think you're going to be productive and try and quicken up your time to get somewhere, and you're taking risk and you're against the law in terms of trying to put a GPS in halfway through, or not setting up at all, but then you're not saving the time as you go along because you're actually unproductive, or you go the wrong way, or you get stopped by the cops, or you have an accident. So I guess that framework looks at all those things that could lead you down the wrong path, instead of, like you said, Tony, getting yourself set up and plan those 1, 2, or 3 things before you actually get in the car and, turn on the car and go forward with it.
Yeah, exactly. Have you got enough fuel? Have you got food and drink? If you're going on a long drive, those sorts of things. Take that analogy and bring it across to, our business, our lives, our career, our health and wellness, whatever it might be. Always start with the end in mind. You would have heard me say that, 1 or 100 times, I'm sure, but start with the end in mind and then plan that out. So for me, there's 4 elements to goals. There's goal setting, goal planning, goal achieving, and goal celebrating. And so, goal setting is get clear on what you want. We should have already done that. That's what this month typically a lot of people will tend to do. Goal planning is then starting to go, okay, well, I've now set a goal and here I am in the middle of January. What are the plans that I'm going to do? And it doesn't have to be at the end of the year. It could be by the end of January, by the 31st of January. Here's the things that I want to have accomplished and here's my plan around it. Goal achieving is putting your left foot in front of your right and leaning into it and taking action. And goal celebrating is then recognising that it's important to reward yourself along the way. But you've got to put a little bit of framework behind this, and that's what you talk about, the basics. Get back to the basic things. And also the other thing when I think about basics, Luke, is let's all think about a time when we were successful, when we were productive, and let's go back and think about what do we do? Because that's the whole, one of the things around the whole neuro side of things is that we have the capability. Like, we have been productive at some point in time in our life, right? But how often do we go, I used to do that and I was really successful, but I no longer do that, right? And I hear that all the damn time. And so it's about, well, recognize what was going on for you. Why did you do that? What was the motivation, the driver? When you accomplished that thing that you thought, you know what, I can't do this, but I did it anyway. What was going on for you? When you sort of unpack that, you're going to have some key things. It's like, wow. So if I then apply the things that I did back then to now, I think I can have the similar result, right? And so it's those sorts of practices and processes that we need to introduce. You're creating
belief for yourself, and I guess that's the summary of what you're saying. Or you basically, if you've accomplished something once, then you can do it again.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be the exact task. It's about the framework that sits around the task, and it's about I had some difficulty doing such and such. It might be making sales calls, and I went through a process. Why did I actually do those sales calls? And you start to think about why you did them and the framework, and now it's like, okay, well, I'm now going to apply that to my health and wellness goal, or to my financial goal, or whatever it might be. Take a similar thought process and apply it, and I'll guarantee you that you'll have significant success.
We got Phil. Tony Gallagher says, when I was riding motorbikes at the track courses, I was taught the slowest one. The slowest one into the corner is the quickest one out, meaning prepare for the corner. It's great. It's a really good analogy. Good story.
Another great analogy. Yeah, because quite often, when you see the racing, the cars or the bikes, when they accelerate into the corner, then they're the ones that go off on the side because they can't correct themselves and they've gone too far, right? And so it's a wonderful analogy, Tony.
Sean says, yep, fueled up for the long drive. She's doing well, feeling herself confidence behind the wheel at the same time. Feeling or fueling? Maybe he's trying to use a bit of a pun there.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. Into the basics, Tony. And if we think about what we're going on and, how you're working with clients, we think about, do we need routines, and what are those routines that we need to think about for ourselves?
Well, the answer is yes. You want to try and introduce, forget the word try. You want to introduce routines because when you're doing routines turn into habits, and you do these things on autopilot, right? So early on, it's going to take some conscious thought. I've got to do this, I've got to do that, etc. But the more that you do it, you then get into autopilot. I'm sure you're on autopilot with your running, right? After 1,100 and whatever days it is. Okay, so it's about creating the routine, so then you can get onto autopilot. We talk about 66 days to form a habit, right? So you've got to do something consciously for 66 days. Now, all of a sudden, your body's starting to shift, and it's looking forward to, it's expecting to do this certain thing. And when it doesn't do that certain thing at a certain time, it sort of starts to throw a few wobblies and go off. So it's about creating habits. So what are some habits? Some habits are going to bed at the same time, getting up at the same time, right? There's some habits. There's some really simple habits that people can introduce in their life. Now, this is not about going to bed early and getting up early. I don't mind if you're a night person, a morning person, it doesn't really matter. But look for a level of consistency. So if you go to bed late and that means you're going to get up a bit later, that's fine. If you go to bed early and you get up early, that's fine either way. But it's about introducing some consistency in your sleep. Yep.
I guess, Tony, that's an interesting one to think about, because there are going to be moments in people's lives where things go out of whack, and we have to then have the flexibility to be able to adapt those situations, but then get back on board, back to our routines. And that's the biggest thing. Once someone stops something, how do they get back on board with it if they've missed a day?
Yeah, well, firstly, be kind to yourself. So we're all human. So, it's about, if you miss a day, it's not the end of the world. You've missed a day. Okay, can't change that. Move forward. The other is to remind yourself why you're doing this and what your goals are. I'm constantly saying, and so, for example, this week I've had a few conversations where, we'd set some goals back in the start of January with some of my clients, and they'd forgotten. I said, what? It's your goal. You need to be looking at your goal each and every day. Like, remind yourself all the time, I'm doing it for this reason. I'm doing it for this reason. Every time my feet hit the floor, I'm doing it for this reason. I'm doing, so you're clear on what your goal is, right? So you're reminding yourself. So then if you miss a day, which is unfortunate, again, you can't change it, remind yourself, well, tomorrow I need to get back on the horse because my goal is X and my goal means too much to me. And that's a simple process, but there's a kindness process in there as well. And that's not because quite often what happens if we miss a day, we will beat ourselves up, we will dwell, we will get low, we will get upset, and I'm a failure, and all the language will start to come, whether it be outwardly or inwardly. You've missed a day. Like, you've missed one day, right? Let's get back on and let's keep going.